Thank you all for joining. This is Bitcoin Core App Design Call number 75. Losing my voice here. Hey, Ashraj. I'm going to share our notes link as usual. Harold cannot make it. He just posted. Jakob will be a few minutes late. Sounds like Harold wants to personally give feedback. He said Johnny has a question, and then he's going to give Mo is going to give you feedback on the research, and he wants to talk about assumeUTXO with Yashraj. So
Okay.
that's cool. And it's birthday tomorrow, so happy birthday there. Pre ahead of time. Someone says a lot of background noise here. But I just put a few things here on the list for today. The mobile nav, which Jakob and I worked on, assumeUTXO, which I think Yasraj Mo G, I think you're working on it, or you have set up a call. So we could talk about that. And then just very briefly, the guide case study. Is there anything else? Oh, yeah. Johnny wanted to talk about the peers page, right?
If we have time, I spoke to a miner this morning. I still have to publish that. I interviewed him this morning, so happy to share a little bit of information about that. I still need to post it in the yeah. I still need to post that in the documentation. I've have a whole bunch of notes.
Cool. Okay, we'll wait with the mobile nav until Jakob shows up because he worked on that one. Johnny, how about we just start with your question? And this was Pierce page.
Yeah, sure. The main thing I was uncertain about was the bottom portion, specifically banning the peer.
Yes, and that is here.
I'm not sure if that was intended to be a drop down or not.
So I know there was a little bit of discussion around it. This was made up. Yeah, it's the initial idea was that you probably don't want this very often. You want it to be explicit, so don't people accidentally just press the wrong button and they've banned this person forever. So I think we could use a little bit more discussion around it. And I guess one question also is then, or if I ban a person, well, first of all, why would I ban someone? I guess so. So the role of banning overall, then why would I only ban someone for an hour? What's the point of that? And then if I've banned someone, can I unban them? If so, where is there a list of banned peers somewhere that I can look through?
Okay.
So I have a few questions.
Those are all my questions too. Yeah.
But is there existing logic that we can copy? This feature exists, right?
I haven't seen how to unban personally.
Yeah, I do think this design is based. Let's pull up our QML review screen here. Should be somewhere. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it exists somewhere. I feel like there's also a variation of this screen here, of the peer screen, with a list of details on the right. Okay. Yeah, I think we have to dig that one up. But yeah, it would be good what the current feature set is. I'm sure
Yeah, okay.
if yeah, and then we could adjust this. But yeah, the original idea that it's not visible by default because it's something you want the user to. They don't need to see all the time. It's only used occasionally, and you want them to specifically, explicitly kind of navigate it. Okay, yeah, let's tackle this one offline. Just add some notes here. Um, what's the current feature set? Okay, I can also create an issue around it.
Yeah, okay. So the process then would be to create an issue in the Bitcoin design repo.
Yeah, I think that's good. That way we have kind of a discussion point for it where we can gather our intel and then update the designs.
Okay, that sounds good. I think that main thing I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing any part there before I start digging into anything like that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Next
Oh,
one.
and
Yeah.
the top right, the intention is to be able to cycle through.
Yeah, that was the idea. So you can with these little arrows in the corners, because it is a full screen thing, so you
Yeah.
don't have to close, go next one, close, go next one.
Okay. Okay. I think that all makes sense.
Yeah, and I think some of this stuff here with feel free to come up with recommendations when you actually hook up the data and think through this stuff. Like some of these visualizations might not work with actual data, so feel free to provide.
Yeah, the relative
Yeah.
network traffic is going to be interesting. I started on it and just for like ping and everything, I just have some hard coded breakpoints, but the other ones will be interesting.
Yeah, I mean so you have absolute values that you work with.
Specifically for ping,
Yeah.
those are generally work that way.
Okay, so it's not
Oh,
relative
yeah.
to all the other connections, but there's some global values.
Yeah, generally with ping, there's some thresholds that we can use, like a couple hundred milliseconds. Even 172 is kind of high, but yeah.
Well, is that the same if I'm, let's say, another country where connections are usually low? Will my color always be red then, basically, or
Probably, yeah, red or
okay.
yellow or one of those within the range.
Some people will never see green, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on how distributed the network is and which peers you end up getting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know. I'd be surprised if, unless you're on, satellite or something odd, that you wouldn't be able to get within 200 milliseconds anywhere.
Okay. Sounds good. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Let's do it that way, and then we can always adjust it.
But yeah, that's what I'll be doing with ping, and then the other ones I'm not entirely sure what colors they'll use.
Yeah, but the idea was to have it relative based on
Yeah,
the
I know
other
some. I know. Yeah, for a lot of those, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, feel free to ask questions in Discord or in Figma or GitHub, wherever, if you want to talk about something. Okay, cool. Anything else on the peers?
I think that's good.
Cool. What's next? assumeUTXO, Yashraj. Want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. Hey everyone, how's it going?
Great. I hear you.
Yeah, very Happy to see G's here. So uh, on Friday, he helped me basically uh, be able to load a snapshot. And so what we did is that there is a GitHub issue where James Urban posted the information to get snapshots, and so he he sent me that issue. I downloaded it on torrent, and then I loaded it with G's help, and we were basically able to have it successfully load on my side on Signet, and that was fun. Also, Al- Also, we discussed the idea of of saying, hey, whatever we have on the 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 loading side is fine. Can we quickly build some UI for generating, and then users can quickly generate and then try to load it or something like that. It would make testing easier, and I wanted to get in people's thought on that.
Yeah, totally. We need the snapshot generation. We need both parts.
Yeah, I think G also talked about some things he will have to figure out and things like that. So I don't know. Maybe if he wants to talk about that or discuss that a bit or whatever, because apparently the generation is not very straightforward from front end. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so as far as the generating the snapshot is concerned, one thing we have to communicate very early on is that it requires basically like a full node, an archival node with the full blockchain loaded, so it can generate the snapshot from it. So on in onboarding, then we have to tell the user um, somewhere. Like I think there's a panel where like it says like storage location or do you want to download the whole blockchain, and putting this with this you'll be able to generate a snapshot or something like that.
Y- Yeah, something we could definitely do is that in the settings section from where we will provide the functionality to generate the snapshot, we can simply disable that option if the node is not a full node, and that will basically take care of it functionally. And you can also put an explainer there saying, hey, you don't have a full node, and so you cannot generate a snapshot. And
Yeah, that's a
maybe
great idea there, sure.
okay, yeah. I have not added something like that. I have not yet added a text like that or a message like that in my design yet, but maybe I'll just I'll just quickly add it. That is like one idea to say this. Yeah.
Uh,
Um, yeah.
how
Yes.
long? I'm curious. So you said on Signet it was kind of quick, but do we have an
Yes.
idea of how long the generation and the import takes for the full mainnet set?
Whoa. Yeah, on an Android, I haven't tried that. I'm assuming it's going to take a long time. On a PC, is not that bad. It takes maybe less than an hour to generate the snapshot on a powerful PC. But on an Android phone, I don't. I have to test it. Actually, yeah, I would have to try that out. Yeah,
Hmm. And while that
Yeah.
happens, is the application blocked or can it just kind of run in the background and just say when it's ready?
it can run in the background. It runs in the background. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I was thinking that like if we do some sort of like a research effort, like it doesn't simply have to be like a user research, but we could also talk to some other devs, core devs, or some other users who have like done this, and maybe they have more like data saying this device it took this much time, loading took X time, the generation took Y time, and once we have a few data points, I think we will get an idea, I guess.
I mean, practically speaking, it's not like there's anything we can do about it. And, if it's an hour or more anyway, it's not something that people are just going to wait for. If there's a bit difference between, let's say, 10 seconds versus 2 minutes or so, right? There's a cutoff at some point where you can let people wait.
Yeah.
But this is so far out of the waiting, convenient waiting time where,
Y- Yeah, absolutely. So I think I also realized that, like, I thought, hey, like, if it takes more than a few seconds, I know that I have to show the progress element. I have to show the loader, and I have to allow the user to go past that, and then figure out in the UI how we can allow them to see progress, because they are, not going to be sticking around on that page for long.
And so I also assume that you should not just shut the application down during that time. It should be actively running, and on an Android or a mobile, you want to avoid the application being
Hmm,
pushed in the background, right?
that's a good point. I think G was talking something about that.
Yeah, I think preferably. So right now, the way it worked, the way it works right now with generating the snapshot, it's actually a shell script. That's the only thing that's available. I'll play around to see how it can be adapted on other OSs. Uh, but yeah, right now it kind of runs. It runs, and it. I mean, if you have the console open, it gives you the status, uh, and the node just works in the meantime. So I haven't tried to just stop it. I'm assuming it can stop, but I'll have to check.
Hmm. Yeah, the question is then if it stops, can it pick up right where it left off or restart, basically?
I do have a quick question for the session on Thursday for the prototyping of assumeUTXOs. What are we hoping to achieve by creating a prototype? Um, like just top of mind, just so that we know that when we create the prototype, we're really creating it for the purposes of what kind of information are we looking for?
I think I can take a stab at answering it, but Christoph, G, if you guys have ideas, totally open to it. Because a couple of things that I think we discussed is that, like, Christoph said, assume UTXO doesn't exactly communicate what it is and what
Mm-hmm,
it does, and it can
mm-hmm,
be intimidating. And so he suggested, like, hey, maybe we should call it by a different name, right?
mm-hmm,
He suggested like a quick start file. I like that. I was thinking of like a coin import file or something like that. So what should we call it? Should we call it something different? That could be one question. Another question could be, uh, uh, how uh, how do we do the loading UI? Should it be a part of the onboarding flow? Maybe it should not be, because Christoph and G have created design options where it is like cursorily mentioned, but
mm-hmm,
you have to click on something and then you are taken to settings. But the option that I designed has it like as a part of the onboarding flow. So what do users think about that, and things like that? Yeah, what else? Um, yeah,
I
I
think
think,
some of
yeah.
the hi everybody, by the way, sorry I had some audio problems before, but I mean to also probably if we know that it's going to take hours anyway, the question then also becomes I think it also will inform where in the flow to put it, right? Because if it takes hours but not weeks, then you can say, okay, let's start kind of downloading in the background, let it run, uh, or people might not even bother and they just go the normal route as everybody else. So that's probably also something to find out. What would people choose based on the fact that we already know it's going to take quite some time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll just add the one thing in general about prototypes is that when you see you just let's say you post a bunch of screenshots or designs on in a GitHub issue, they're all like in a long list. When you see them in Figma, they're all next to each other, and I think when you interact with them that way, it's like your rational brain is kind of active. You have to
Mm-hmm.
piece things together. But when you have a prototype and you can sit on your sofa and just kind of tap around, that's more like the mode, the way of thinking that you're actually in when you're more a casual user. Kind of less analytical,
Mm-hmm.
in a way, more reacting to things what you're presented rather than coming into this with now. I am looking at the design engineering sheets of this feature, blah blah. Right. So I think it allows you to look at things from a different perspective and validate them from that point of view.
It feels like it will help to validate design decisions, and it feels like once we have created the prototype, we could put it in front of a few people. These do not need to be super long usability tests. It's probably going to be like a 5-second, put it in front of person test, tell me what you think, and then, done kind of thing. It's not going to be the intense usability testing that we always do. It's going to be super rapid, super quick feedback. And it seems like if it is called quick start file, then it would be interesting to see if people would choose the quick start option. The only limitation that this has is that because we don't actually know if it's going to take weeks or hours, that's the part for me that's a little bit tricky in putting this decision in front of people, because then in the prototype, should we say, hey, you can use a quick start file. This is going to take a few hours. Would that be something that we would say? Because, I mean, can we even?
Well, that's the
Yeah,
thing, right? You don't want to tell people. They need
yeah,
to, you want to present them with an experience and let them go through it without you telling them, like, here's what's going to happen if you do this or that.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think if you wanna do a proper user test with this, it's kind of complex. You almost need to start at the point where people download this application, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
that download option also has a snapshot file available for download that you can
Yeah,
download in parallel. Because although if we don't want to link from within the application, because we want to be careful, I don't know if we can or if we can't, or if we don't want to do that, link to some officially whatever signed snapshot file. If you want to avoid that, then we just need to tell people, well, go and find one, right? So
Yeah,
there's this whole thing about guiding them towards actually finding that. So it's not just a quick decision, but there's more to it. Like if you decide to
yeah.
do this, you need to the file, and then where do you get that from? Download it, all the stuff.
Okay.
yeah. I think this was the third question on my list, Christoph. The first one was like, what should be the name? Second one was, should it be part of the onboarding or like a prominent part of the onboarding, especially since it helps so much. It can help with like reducing the onboarding time by half or something like that. So that's the second question. And the
Mm-hmm.
third one was, as you said, the third one is, should it be a torrent? Should it be just available on a website? What do people think is, more accessible to them? Maybe there is some other option which we don't know about yet, because I downloaded it on a torrent, and like torrents are accessible for everyone. I think almost everyone might have downloaded a torrent at some point in their life. I don't know, but it can also have other issues like, hey, there is like nobody to download it from, and then what does the user do then? You know,
Yeah.
and so like different options have different trade-offs. What do people like about it? Different options and stuff. So
So sometimes the easiest thing is to just design a bunch of different options. In Figma, you can quickly duplicate the screens. One variation, okay, we
yes,
have a download link. The other one, we don't have a download link. Third one is something else, right? And then you just
hmm,
kind of live with that, and then
yeah,
because so that way you're not forcing a resolution of this question in the moment, but you're preparing a
yeah,
few paths, and then when
hmm,
a this ecosystem, whatever, it somehow gets figured out how these
Yeah.
files should be treated, then we can just say, okay, cool, we'll go this way.
Yeah. Also, just to quickly add, I think the answer to this question or this decision might be a bigger thing than the UI of the application itself. Like, how do people discover the application? If they discover it on bitcoin.app, then you can simply add the instructions there. But if there are like a dozen different paths, then we like have a big question. Like, how do we communicate all of that? Can it be simply on a website? Can we put it in the application saying download the torrent from here? That would be something that I don't think will be okay,
Yeah.
because Bitcoin Core, we do not force people to do things. We don't do some of these things, but like maybe that could be an option too. So it might be something outside of the UI itself.
Yeah, so in order to not let, this is meant to be about this one single assume UTXO feature. In order to keep it kind of the task contained, I would just design a few different things and not, and like just make a cutoff point, because otherwise, you end up designing everything and the whole website
I
and all of this.
Yeah, I feel like this could go because, if we wanted to influence design decisions, then we could very easily just go with two different versions and then see how usable those are from a very practical perspective. What would user choose if that's the second question? I do feel that that's a tricky question to answer if you present them with a prototype and not presenting this design in its actual build format, because that downloading time is going to make a big impact in the decision making process. At least it feels that way from listening. So yeah, I don't know. Does it make sense what I said? No.
Well, I thought, like, at least what I understood is that you are probably thinking that you are probably saying that there is a difference between just showing them a prototype and
Mhm.
giving them an actual application to download and stuff. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, if this, from what I understand, the assume UTXO will allow the user to make transactions without downloading the full block, if I understood correctly. So then they have to download another file to be able to start that process. They have to download, what was the word? I don't remember it.
Yes. No,
They have
right,
to
but
download a
that's the thing. Yeah.
snapshot.
Yes.
So
Yes.
how long does the snapshot downloading process take?
It depends on the size, right? I mean, again, this would the size of the file itself would be different if we are doing signet, testnet, mainnet. That would influence the size of the file. I would assume that if we are downloading the main Bitcoin blockchain and all of that, it might be a longer time. But I might be totally wrong. It's just a total assumption.
That also influences the user's decision as well, although, so I find this is very interesting. I've never come across this before, that because yeah, I guess we'll figure that out in the prototyping session, because
Yeah.
Yeah, I would try to structure this somehow. One important thing is figuring out what is the difference between. So we know it takes an hour on a powerful PC,
mhm,
the generation, but if we can get roughly ballpark figures for generation on a desktop on a phone, import on a desktop on a phone, just on mainnet, the actual difference it makes, then for user testing, you could simply like, hey, we're thinking about this feature. This is the difference it would make. Do you think you would do this? Just kind of just general feeling about it. Like, is this worth it to you? If you had to download this file, what do you think about that? If you have a
mhm,
node, would you generate this thing? You just kind of get a general idea for this feature.
mhm,
And then you could separate out the implementation validation, and
mhm,
that's where you would actually create, you would maybe not tell people to go through the whole experience, but you say, well, you're in this situation right now, you already
mhm,
downloaded this file, you saw it
Hmm.
on the website, now you're at this screen, and does this make sense to you? What would you do? How would you go about this? Where you're giving them a bit more context, you're refining the scenario a little bit, and then you validate if the copy makes sense, if the options make sense, if they feel like the feedback is the feedback that they want or that's helpful to them, and all of this stuff. Yeah, I would try to break it down somehow.
So this is
would
making
it
a lot of sense what Christoph said. Yeah, exactly. So in the sharing of the actual, so the user interview process would have two parts. The first part will be very contextual. We'll just throw out a question like, hey, let's say it would take an hour for this whole process to occur. Would there be something that you would be open for? And from that point, we can then move into actually showing them the prototype, because that contextual decision is something that we cannot really show them practically. So it would be good to get that. Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I love all of that.
Mhm.
It would be super fun to participate in this and see how we can do it. I look forward to that. I think it might then also make sense to like maybe get some data points from people who have done it already, like the devs and stuff, and get like a few data points saying how much time it takes to load, how much time it takes to generate, so that like when more you are uh, presenting the question, you can like use actual estimates instead of
Mhm.
saying, "Ah, we don't really know how long it
Yeah,
takes to load."
you need real
So,
numbers. Yeah.
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 So in that case, getting that data can be useful. Yeah. Okay. I'll contact a few people, I guess, and I know Johnny is here, G is here. Like yeah. I think also Harold is going to provide some feedback. If you guys can like reach out and say, hey, just report on this. I will add a data table to my Google Docs file, and people can just enter the info they have, I guess, if they have it. You know?
We call this advanced user testing, aka Bitcoin style. Just
Yeah.
very interesting. Cool. I've made some notes here, so we should be good for the session on Thursday.
Yeah. And it might be a thing where it also, you could ask people, well, if you had to torrent this file, would you do it? If there was
Okay.
an officially signed one from Bitcoin Core, would you do it? If you would have to ask a friend, would you do it? Because there might be different sensitivities to where some people might just say, no, I don't want to do it. I really want to validate everything myself, even if it takes longer. I'm cool with that. And other people might react differently. Maybe some people don't care, or maybe they have more questions or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can move on, or we can quickly, or rather, I can quickly show a couple of design things I did in Figma, and if the crowd is interested in seeing that, or we can move on.
I think it'd be good to
Because
move on because we still have 3 things on the list. And you have when is
okay,
the prototyping call coming up? Is that tomorrow?
Thursday. Yeah, it's tomorrow. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I assume everyone's invited to join.
Yeah, 100%, 500%.
Okay, cool. So that'll be interesting.
all
Um,
right.
yeah, how about we talk about the mobile nav now that Jakob's here? So I'll share my screen for that one because along those lines I wanted to do something else. Show something else, I guess. So I'll actually share my desktop here in my background. So that's my awesome. Can you see my background here?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go to the prototype. I'm going to reload this page here. So this is set up as a progressive web app now. So I'll just show what that means. So I'll see this little tab here at the top, or I can press the share button and add it to my doc. No matter what I do, I can run this as an actual application. And I can do that on Android and iOS as well. So then it runs in a native Chrome, and it also works. It pretends to be a desktop app, right? So that's one of the things with prototyping, where we can actually feel things out. So that should be helpful. And so what Jakob and I worked on was basically the difference between desktop navigation, where we have these tabs at the top, and mobile navigation. And so this is kind of, we went through some design iterations, and that's kind of what we came up with. So no more tabs at the bottom. That came out of was it last week's session, right? Instead, we have send and receive kind of prominent here in the center. I can press the wallet name and balance here to get this selector from the bottom. I can click through my different accounts, or wallets basically, not accounts. And then some of the navigation pattern here is the block logs on the left, right? We establish a space here. Settings come in from the right. Then if I want to send, that slides in from below. I'll enter my stuff, I'll press review, I'll send it off, and then I'm back to my activity. And receive is kind of similar. All right, so and then looking in a transaction also slides in from the right. So that's kind of typical mobile navigation patterns there. So that's what we came up with. It's probably a bunch of stuff there to tweak still, but that's where we are with mobile navigation. And then, let's say if you compare it to desktop, it's kind of similar, but you do have this static element of the top at the top here that kind of stays around. And then for switching wallets, you have this overlay here instead of this thing that slides in from the bottom. This guy. Yeah, Jakob, did I miss anything? Whoop.
No, that's it. Yeah, I think it's really enough to have the send and receive buttons there. It's I think you don't need more, actually.
Something I was wondering if we should separate the wallet name from the balance, so you could tap the balance to hide it quickly.
I like that suggestion.
Having two different elements. But just in terms of going again to the benefit of a prototype, if you look at things on a static screens on GitHub or in Figma, you cannot really get a feel for how things navigate from one to the next.
Yeah, I love this so much, the prototyping thing, and just of because it converts into a progressive web app and it feels like the actual application. That is so cool. I want to desperately do it. I just not been having time at all because it took to learn it and then do it for everything, including assumeUTXO. It's so cool.
Yeah, the way Jakob and I worked is that we did a bunch of stuff in Figma and discussed, and then I asked him like, hey, should I implement it? He said okay, and then I implemented it, and then we tweaked it again a little bit. So I'm happy to, if you want to, once the design's ready to be validated, we can we can just make it happen here.
I love it. Sounds good. Yeah. Yes. Of course. I think you also have access to the file, so you can also take a look at any time and use it, I guess, to create the prototypes and stuff. I'll share the file again just in case.
Would it be an idea to create a prototype only for testing within the group on Figma and then create something slightly higher and more interactable? So one prototype would be in Figma, the group, we go through it, we interact with it, we provide feedback. We're not testing it with showing it with anyone outside of the project. And then when we're showing it outside the project, when it's close to implementation, we do Christoph, if he's available, to create something like that, which is something that's more interactive. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud in terms of putting it in front of people. I don't know how long this process takes in terms of creating a more higher fidelity prototype. Um,
Yeah, I mean, so there are just differences in Figma. It just gets super complex very quickly.
yeah,
You
exactly.
cannot really do hovers, and it's not responsive. You can not just stretch the screen and see what happens. They're just for some stuff it's good, but at a
Hmm.
certain level of complexity it just falls apart. It doesn't work anymore. So yeah, I mean, but you can very, like, if for simple stuff you can so quickly put it together and send it to someone and it works great. So
Exactly.
just use those for let's just use all of those tools for different things.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah. For something like Christoph just showed, I think you could probably do it with variables and stuff like nowadays to for the responsiveness, but I'm not sure, and it would take a lot of time also to get it
You can
right.
do it. I think it's not difficult, but you need to learn it first. I haven't really
Yeah.
dived deep in, because in Figma now you can have some basic logic, and you can have like stuff that you, for example, if you have tabs and you change screen, you can come back to the same tab you were active last time and things like that. You can do this, but yeah, you
But
need
you
to
can
set variables, basically like logic variables, and you basically it's almost like you can code it in the prototype. It's just
it's
getting similar, I think, to the
Okay, Jakob.
yeah.
So hopefully you're on the call tomorrow because I want to see how we use all those new
No,
functionalities.
well, I just said I haven't tried it. I just
Okay.
maybe tried it once, but I'm not like fluent in it at all.
All right.
yeah you can do counters and all these kinds of things. So in that regard, Figma comes closer to tools like Axure, where you can do these things and also responsive stuff for a pretty long time. But then it also takes a lot of time. So basically, it's just a way to show or to choose the tools. And since we want to have kind of it as a reference also then for implementation, then probably a web-based prototype is maybe the best choice.
Yeah, that sounds cool. But I feel like if I have to learn both of them, I'd rather learn what Christoph is doing, the wizardry, and then like have it be like something super awesome that I can just
I
send
would,
people the URL and they open the link on their phone and it looks like the app. Like if I had to learn both, I have to. So at some point, but yeah, the Figma related things. Also, I guess at some point I have to learn those too. Yeah. Long
I would,
process. It's a long process.
I would say if we like, I would say we can discuss like a flat just designs without prototyping or very basic prototyping in Figma without any fancy stuff within our group or smaller groups, like smaller groups if we divide if we work on something, and then if we that small group feels this may work, then maybe Christoph or Yashraj or whoever can prototype it. So if the kind of inner group feels it's kind of good to test to really try it out, then we can prototype it.
Yeah, use whatever tools you're comfortable with. Right?
100%. Yeah.
Especially right now, long term, we can sync on something. We can help each other with all of this stuff. But yeah, if you feel like you have a tool that helps you express what you want to express, to test what you want to test, just use it. It's not like
100%.
none of this is final code, right? So we don't have to be like the core devs to be like, super specific about everything.
Yeah.
Someone has a hand up.
Oh, Vidushi, you have your hand up.
Yeah, like I had a small feedback, like the recent prototype for the app. Most of the clickable stuff, I feel like it's on the top, like the send and receive or the setting and everything, and activities like the transactions. Like I'm just asking, like I feel like most of the people don't click on that mostly. So yeah, just a small feedback. Like I think it would be better that if we kept it below, like like it was previously, or
You mean on mobile?
Yeah, on mobile.
Yeah. So we had a conversation around that as well, and we looked at 10 different designs for it. And we decided not to go on the one hand. So if you have it at the bottom, is usually good for tabs. In all the social media apps, you usually have those, and a lot of
Yeah.
times they're for different areas of the application, and a lot of times it's actually for browsing stuff. So if you're in the subway, you have your phone with one hand, you can just quickly switch tabs and browse whatever you want to browse, right? So it's good
Yeah.
for consumption. With send and receive, you're going to have to enter something. You're going to have to get both hands on the phone.
Yeah.
So we're thinking, and just visually, it looked a lot cleaner
Okay.
because we only had two tabs at the bottom then, and it took up a lot of space. If we made them floating buttons, it was kind of hideous. Like there was all this overlap with transactions, and then we just decided, well, we'll just put them there, right? You cannot use send and receive one-handed really, anyways. So
Yeah. Okay.
that's what we ended up in. But we can test it out, and it's definitely up for debate again. But that was the rationale. Doesn't mean it's the best rationale, but that was the rationale.
Okay.
Also,
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
think
it's
Actually,
I
that's a
get
good
I get the
reasoning. Yeah.
yeah.
I think
I
that
get
it's
the
a good
point. It's
reason.
it's more it's more ergonomical to like for browsing, but I like it that it's close to the balance because that's what is being impacted as well, right? You send and receive to that wallet and to that kind of balance. So these related things are close to each other. I think from it's from a usability perspective, the only thing is that you cannot directly access it with one thumb, probably, but that's I think the only thing.
And the good thing is, you can get this prototype. You can install it on your phone, share, add to home, add to desk, add dock, add to whatever it's called, and then try it out and see how you like it.
And also, we still can add swiping with fingers. I mean, the screens, right? Potentially, I don't know how this would behave with transaction list because it can kind of overlap, but potentially we could try how it could feel the swiping the whole screens, but I don't know.
I would defer to the devs to ask because they're using. In iOS, you get some of this stuff for free if you do native development because they have these navigation controllers and all of this stuff. In QML, there's some, I think, was it a stack view or something that's being used to navigate between the screens? If that's built in, then it's probably easy to do. Custom coding stuff like that can be pretty intricate because with touch, like there's a difference between just tapping something once, swiping in one direction, scrolling in one direction, the long tap, the double tap, these type of things can get pretty intricate. So I would defer to the devs on that one.
So I was just shilling the UTXO call, which is tomorrow, and I just added it in. We haven't posted it as an official event in the calendar because it just happened very spontaneously. But I think we should definitely post them as official events in the next events. But it's tomorrow, and then it's at 3 UTC, and that's the link to join. If anyone would like me to send them a proper calendar link, feel free to drop me your email and on Discord, and I'm happy to send over an invite. So, yeah. Is it okay if I maybe share a little bit about the research very briefly?
You're muted, Christoph.
Not anymore. Haha. No, but yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, share
Okay,
the.
I'm going to be very quick because there's just two very quick topics that I want to share. So there is I don't know if I think we would call it a draft version because Jakob has already given input and Christoph has already also given input. The draft version is now on as an issue in GitHub. And the comments from Jakob gave a whole bunch of feedback around the copy, super helpful. And Christoph gave some very useful feedback in that if it's in image form, it's not searchable and it's not findable. So the next step would be to move it into actual HTML format on Bitcoin Core app. So I'll share it very, very quickly. This is what it looks like at the moment. The link to the actual file is here. This is research where we interviewed Jakob, myself, and one more person from the community interviewed people. I'm not going to go through the whole research report. I'll allow you the pleasure and the time to read through it when you like. But that's basically the research report. I tried to move it away from traditional research reports, which is extremely text heavy. And I tried to add in a lot of visuals to try to pull people through a story. So that was the goal of doing it like this. So that's that in terms of and thank you, Jakob, so much for your feedback. Jakob loved the illustrations, so that's super cool. So yeah, that's the research. And then also spoke to a miner this morning. I interviewed a miner. He was super helpful. He mentioned that for mining, you do 100% need to have your own node. That was one of the things he mentioned. I actually took him through like a jobs to be done interview process. So I asked him in terms of his exact like use case for Bitcoin Core. He said that the settings that's most relevant for miners is the template provider. I do not know what that is. And then also fee transactions. Bitcoin Core has a rule as a recommended setup, which it adds the transactions which have the highest fees, and that's a very important setting for miners. So fees and the template provider are the two most important things for miners. So yeah, and the two use cases, there's two very direct use cases. The one is efficiency in pool mining. So when miners are in a pool together, they need to run a Bitcoin Core node for the efficiency aspect of things. And then the second thing is that a solar miner would need to build their own block templates. So I'll also add those in as notes to the documentation website. I have a little bit more notes than that. But definitely the interview gave insight that there's more research that needs to be done in speaking to understanding the node side of things. And he also mentioned that he's very happy to, when we're ready to kick off such an initiative, he's very happy to get us in contact with the mining community, happy to tweet, happy to get people to get on a call with us. So that was a very good call, which I had this morning with a miner. So we have now access to two communities. We have the node community, which we part of the Discord, and then now we can also have access to the miners. And I think with those two communities, we can get enough information on the node runner requirements. So that's it from the research side, short and sweet.
Very cool. Do the miners actually run the GUI, or are they just all command line and?
I didn't directly ask that question because one of my questions was because he's building Stratum V2, and one of my questions was, do you need to have a graphical interface to connect to get Bitcoin Core? And his answer was, he said every single miner, depending on which mining pool they belong to, whether they're a solar miner or whether they belong to a mining pool, they will use the mining software of that specific pool. Mm-hmm. The impression I got was there was no interface that was needed, but he said he was very enthusiastic. He said if there would be a miner's interface that existed, it would be super amazing. And my next question that I asked was, do we have any idea of how many miners there are? And he said, no, we absolutely do not have that information because that's how it's supposed to be. So we do not have information on how many people are using Bitcoin Core to mine, and we probably will never know that, but at least we have access to them. And if we want to do some interviews for the node side of things, there's two communities that we can reach out to, which would be super amazing.
There was once mining interface in the GUI, but it was removed.
Really? Interesting. How interesting.
Yeah, by the way, go ahead.
No, it seems for simplicity in purposes, he was quite happy with just the interface for node runners in general being nice and being a little bit modified to suit miners as well. He's very happy with that. It was like to have it like that.
Yeah. So the template that's the block template. So basically, the pool provides the block itself. It just needs to be hashed. So that's what they're looking for. Where they will get this template from, like which transactions should go in there and how.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like miners would really be users of this GUI.
No. It feels like they're more, because I asked him when was the last time you opened it, and I'm gonna go back to his answer to his question. I said, when was the last time you opened it? He said last week. Why did you open it? What was the context? We were testing V2, so we needed a Bitcoin Core node and we needed to get it up and running. So they were just basically just getting a core node up and running. Basically, that was it. That was the last time that it was opened.
More for testing then.
Yeah, testing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it is interesting. It's a different audience of node users that we would be connecting with. Yeah.
Yeah, nice work with this quick interview. Super interesting.
Yeah, I think the quick interview provides information as to whether we should deep dive further into it. So yeah, would be interesting, and having access to the community would be amazing as well. So yeah, let's see.
Cool. We're at the hour. There was one more thing on the list, which was guide case study, which so we've Mo has been documenting this whole process. I think this project kicked off, I checked earlier, I think it was September 2021, that we just kind of create a case study for it in the Bitcoin Design Guide. We have a few other ones in there. But I think that can be just kind of a separate little process that we can just kind of kick off. That'd be nice to have. And otherwise, I guess the meeting's tomorrow, and we'll talk about peer stuff, peer banning, and assumeUTXO in Discord and on GitHub.
Exactly.
Sounds good.
I mean, for assumeUTXO, it would be so awesome if all of us could actually test it and report back with our findings. I don't really know how to do it yet, but that would be ideal. So if you can, it'd be great.
Yasha just on the ball here. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, guys, before we jump up, I just wanted to say that, please join the call tomorrow. And if you don't join, I will ban you from my node. Okay.
You're a bit muffled right now.
Oh, yeah, no worries. Just jump in.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I was overhearing some thread, something like, if you're not joining, then I will hunt you down,
Yes.
or something like that. Okay.
Well, I may or
That was what he was saying.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's not recorded or anything, so I think I'm good.
I like being hunted. It's a nice feeling.
Same.
Makes
Depends by whom.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Cool, sounds good. So I'll stop the
All right.
recording then, and we can continue chatting. So thanks anyone for tuning in.